My name is Shari Rosenman. We had a chance to have 3 information meetings, both here and in the Valley, to give people information about homeschooling. And the biggest question that came up time and time again was, what are we going to do for the Judaic studies? How are we going to teach our children Hebrew and Judaic studies? So, Rabbi Leubitz is the assistant rabbi at B'nai David Judaic congregation where I'm a member, and he is a professor of Judaic studies at Shalhevet High School. I'm sure he does many other things, and he has his master's in education.
There are really 2 components. There is the Chavruta component, which each student will have not necessarily 2, but a number, 2, 3, 4, depending on chemistry, depending on background, we'll have time to study together. Before they begin, they'll have a prep sheet, which will talk about the questions they need to look for, give them time to actually do some breaking their teeth, dictionary work, etc. And then they come together for the shiur or the lecture part. Last year we ran the shiur part for about one 60-minute session, one 75-minute session, and the Chavruta time was, for themselves, they spent, I'd say between an hour and 2 hours working on learning. And in terms of also addressing the meat and potatoes, what we're not going to do, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We focus mostly on Chumash, and we begin to talk a little bit about Mishnah. And the reason that I believe that we need to focus on this area is that too often we push our kids to move on to the next discipline without actually ever having mastered the first discipline. And so you very often come across kids who are learning Gemara who still can't read a Mishnah, or are learning Mishnah who still can't read Chumash. So the idea really here is to ground them in Chumash, which is the 5 books, and Tanakh. The rationale here is they're slightly different disciplines, but the goal ultimately here is to teach the students how to think, how to analyze a pasuk, how to see what the Chazal, what the rabbis were looking at when they started to comment on it. There's a whole myriad of reasons as to why they would be commenting, but they need to begin to look at that and become real thinkers before anything else. The discipline, like I said before, which is slightly different in Mishnah and Chumash, is giving the students an ability to learn how to think and a skill set. It's that skill set which will allow them to open up a Chumash for the rest of their life, a Sefer for the rest of their life, once they learn how to think. So what you really leave them with, which is the ultimate gift, is becoming self-learners, motivated learners, lovers of learners, and that is best found going back to the primary sources, going back to the Mishnah and back to the Chumash, which in some sense is really the catalyst for all of the Jewish knowledge that flows from it.
Sara currently works at Shalhevet as both an administrator and as a teacher. She has 23 years of teaching experience, and she has her master's in education.
So number one, the most important thing is that the child feels safe within the environment. Now the up-to-date way of teaching language, which from all researchers works much better, is speaking the language, actually living the language, speaking the language. So the moment the kids step into the room where they know I'm there, they know that now it's a Hebrew zone. There is no more English. The way it will work in our environment is that there will be all the skills we'll learn. Of course, the main skill that we'll use will be the speaking, but we'll have all the other 4 skills, the skills of language, which is reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So those will all be in the same lesson, and all the instructions will be done in Hebrew, and we'll do it from different, using different intelligence, which means we'll use art, we'll use movements, dance, whatever it takes, that the children will experience the language.
The work that we do in Tefillah, and it is work, is thinking. It's the methodology that we used when we learned Chumash together in the master's program at the AJU. Chagit is an adult, our kids, the youngest one we had was 7. Same methodology. Why? Because they all have the same questions and interests. It's all about getting the kids to own the text. We were learning about the poem, the prayer, Adon Olam, and somehow we ended up discussing the structure of Shmon Esrei, of the Amidah, the silent Amidah, and in particular we spent a session or two on modes of bowing. Why? Because that's the question, that question was asked by one of the kids in the group, and I saw the ears of all of the kids perk up immediately. Why do we bow? Why do you bow like this then rather than like that? It led us into a discussion. Now, the obvious implication here is that we're having a discussion, so when do you daven? When do you have the actual prayer? And that is an important issue to manage, because within the range from 7 to 12, there were very, very different skill sets on Tefillah. The 7-year-old basically was there soaking it up like a sponge. We used a lot of song because kids responded to that, and I often pulled out my guitar and played along with them. And on particular tefillot where it was relevant, particularly hallelujahs, we pulled out all those drums over there and the percussion instruments that I had. At the end of the day, what we sought to create was a communal tefillah experience where each kid could personally engage with the tradition and with God and the community, this small little community that we created here, in their way. I'm not going to charge anyone because I do this for the benefit of my kids. But I'm prepared to offer that benefit to others on the following condition. 1, I'm not prepared to babysit. 2, I will only do this if you find another way to contribute back to this community.
אחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובד והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא חד